So darn it, I have a couple more questions here, but
Yeah,
I'll
we
just
do a rapid fire, and then just ask me.
Okay, yeah. So the first thing I wanted to know was, the expansion to JSOC. How much do you think that is President Obama, and what are your feelings about the president?
Yeah, I mean, I think the rise of JSOC really was like a product of Cheney and Rumsfeld. I mean, I think they really came up with this idea as a way to get around the CIA. They didn't like the CIA because the CIA wasn't telling them what they wanted on Iraq.
Right.
So they sort of start beefing it up. And then after, Obama becomes president, really we've been in these wars for almost a decade already.
He just adapted their foreign policy.
And he just took it, yeah. And I think what happened is that, Obama viewed himself as being able to wage a smarter war.
Right.
He wanted to draw down the large-scale military deployments. Biden is one of the top veterans of American foreign policy. He's a very kind of hawkish Democrat.
Right.
And I think these guys came up with the idea that, look, JSOC is surgical, they're discreet, it's not going to end up a lot in the papers, and they're going to be effective. And let's be honest, that is probably the most elite force that history's ever produced in terms of a military force. I mean, it's an all-star team of the most powerful military on earth, run by. McRaven is an incredibly smart man. He has a journalism degree from the University of Texas.
I did some research on him after we were watching the movie.
And I think it was Obama just said, I'm going to outsource this to these guys because that's my best weapon, and I can continue to hit the Republicans and say, well, I'm going to end the war in Afghanistan and Iraq. Well, he's expanded other wars. So, I mean, you asked me what I think of Obama. I mean, I think that on a foreign policy level, we'll look back, 10 years from now, and say that what happened is that President Obama ensured this perpetual state of war that we're in is going to continue. And he made possible the continuation of policies that never would have been tolerated if McCain had won the election in 2008 because there would have been so much pushback. People were fed up with that stuff. Obama has sold a bill of goods to a lot of liberals. Gotten them to buy into stuff that they wouldn't have.
I'm guilty as well. I literally made a movie about this subject, and then I see Obama, and I pushed so hard for him, and I helped run stuff his campaign. And
people wanted it to end. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's your next?
I had a couple, but I'll just go ahead. This one's kind of the most important. If you were running U.S. policy overseas, so you're somebody that's been there a lot, how would you, in this war on terrorism, how would you say that you feel about the way that it's being run, and how would you run it? How would you combat terrorism?
I think we need to demilitarize our response to terrorism. I think we need to view it through the lens of crimes against the nation or specific crimes, and try to bring anyone who we have evidence is involved with these plots to justice. I would call a total moratorium on drone strikes. In a similar way to when George Ryan, the governor of Illinois, called the moratorium on the death penalty, the reason was that there was documented, provable evidence that a number of innocent people had been killed. So the original rationale for calling the moratorium on the death penalty in Illinois had to do with innocent people being killed. We now, after 10 years of this, have so much evidence that so many innocent people have been killed. We should call a moratorium on it. There should be major national hearings on how we respond to what is actually a relatively minor threat in the world.
I agree.
Relative to most threats that are, the biggest threat to our society right now, I think, is our economic situation.
Absolutely.
And the suffering that ordinary Americans are going through.
And you can't get Congress to do a damn thing about it.
You can't get them to do anything about it. And yet, we need more money to develop a new stealth drone. Oh, okay, sure. And who are you killing? Well, you're killing some farmer.
Why don't we? It's like the one thing that the president. I'm sorry, Josh. It's like the one thing the president did this week, talking about the brain initiative. I was like, well, why aren't we doing more of that? We used to be this country that was all about ideas. We would go to the moon, and here we are. We haven't even, we haven't gone back to space in 30 years, and people are laughing at Newt Gingrich because he's talking about having a colony on the moon.
Right.
Man, my dad would have thought we'd had a colony on the moon 20 years ago, but we just decided that we were going to stop, and we're going to spend all our money on military necessities.
Our priorities are totally warped in this country, and it's a bipartisan disease. These guys, it's such a useless bunch of folks that are on Capitol Hill for the most part. I mean, they are not representing any ordinary folks in this country at all.
No, they're not. And then they just rewrite the districts so that they can keep the districts forever.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's terrible. Man, I could talk to you all day long. It was great to talk to you.
Yeah, I'd like to see your film at some point.